Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our Israelite or Women's Advanced Bible Study Night, the 17th of November, 2022. We're doing a follow up on the clubhouse room last night from Israel was not destroyed in 70 AD. Go back over some of the strong points that was made and get some feedback. I'm asking everybody to go to our YouTube channel, to Prophets of Awakening. Check out the videos. Look at the information that is given. The videos will connect dots for you and bring you to the truth of the Holy Scriptures. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It would be greatly appreciated. And for those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh is the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses on Mount Sinai by the Lord of Hosts, Israel's Redeemer. Shalom and welcome to Prophets of Awakening, and welcome to our Advanced Bible Study. We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, prayer, Psalms. We do a little women's health moment, and the current event, a little Q&A. Okay? O Lord, I pray unto the Lord my God, and we make our confessions, O Lord, the great and dreadful God, keeping covenant and mercy to them that love thee and to them that keep thy commandments. O Lord, righteousness belongeth unto thee, but unto us confusion of face as it is this day, to the men of Judah and unto the inhabitants of Jerusalem and unto all Israel that are near and that are far off, through all the countries whither thou hast driven us, because of our trespass that we have trespassed against thee. As it is written in the laws of Moses, all this evil has come upon us in the land of our captivity, here in the Americas, Caribbean, Great Britain, and Africa. O Lord, according to thy righteousness, I beseech thee, let thine anger and thy fury be turned away from thy city, Jerusalem, and thy people, and thy holy mountain. O Lord, hear this prayer and cause thy face to shine upon thy sanctuary and thy people for your sake. O Lord, open thine eyes and incline thine ears to hear and behold our condition. O Lord, hear, O Lord, forgive. O Lord, hearken and do, and defer not for thine own sake, O my Lord, for thy people and your land need you desperately at this hour. Peace be unto you. Okay. With that being said, I want to read the Psalms right quick. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna read Psalms 42. It's to the chief musician, Mashkel, one of the sons of Korah. As the hart panteth after the water brook, so panteth my soul after thee, O God. My soul thirsted for thee. My soul thirsted for God, for the living God. When shall I come and appear before God? My tears have been my meat day and night, while they continuously say unto me, where is thy God? When I remember these things, I poured my soul in me, for I had gone with the multitude. I went with them to the house of God, with the voice of joy and praise, with a multitude that kept holy day. Why art thou cast down, O my soul, and why art thou disquieted in me? Hope thou in God, for I shall yet praise him for the help of his countenance. O my God, my soul is cast down within me. Therefore will I remember thee from the land of Jordan and of the Harmonites, and from the hill of Mizar. Deep calleth unto deep at the noise of thy water spouts. All thy waves and thy billows are gone over me. Yet the Lord will command his loving kindness in the daytime, and in the night his song shall be with me, and my prayer unto the God of life. I will say unto God, my rock, why hast thou forgotten me? Why go I mourning because of the oppression of the enemy? As with a sword in my bones, mine anger, my enemies reproach me, while they say daily unto me, where is thy God? Why art thou cast down, O my soul? And why art thou disquieted within me? Hope thou in God, for I shall yet praise him who is the help of my countenance and my God. So that was Psalms 42, and then "'Tis Longing for God." It was a song by one of David's chief musicians, Miss Child. Okay, anybody have any comments on that? Okay, so we'll go on to our women's health moment and get a little health information.
Shalom, everyone. Tonight I'm going to talk about stress. And is stress good for you? What is stress? Stress can be defined as any type of change that causes physical, emotional, or psychological strain. Stress is your body's response to anything that requires attention or action. Everyone experiences stress to some degree. The way you respond to stress, however, makes a big difference to your overall well being. Occasional stress is a normal coping mechanism. However, long term stress may contribute to or worsen a range of health problems, including digestive disorders, headaches, sleep disorders, or other symptoms. How does stress affect your brain and body? Stress affects both the brain and body. A little bit of stress is good for people to perform and protect themselves, but too much stress can overwhelm them, leading to fight, flight, or freeze response. So, learning how to cope with stress is important for our mental and physical well being. Here are a few ways on how to manage stress. Get enough sleep. Sleep repairs, relaxes, rejuvenate our body, and reverses the effect of stress. Eat healthy. What we eat and drink can affect our health. Eating a healthy diet is very important to prevent or recover from diseases. Exercise. Um, Last but not least, pray. Prayer moves the negative to the positive. It brings you strength and comfort. Isaiah 41 and 10 says, Fear thy not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. Yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. That was a discussion on stress.
Okay, appreciate that information. Okay, we're gonna move on to current events, and then okay, got a couple of current events.
To the shrine. I had to go and I was Gaiwa Kirinyaga. And I had to appear, and it has been a transformational 1 or 2 weeks, totally transformational. And it's funny how this awakening journey is level to level, and it just gets better. But those are stories for other days. Family, Oh, this is Ask Dr. Mumbi, so you can always email me at drmumbi@drmumbishow.com. And the only reason I'm addressing this is because quite a few people emailed me and left it in the comments that I should talk about Ye and Kim Irving. First of all, what do I have to say? What is there to say, family? Like, seriously? Give us your comments about what Ye said. Okay, so he said his mother was sacrificed. I think I shared that like 3-4 years ago, family, or around the time she died. And he'd already said it before in a song. So, I mean, so he said it again. And you see, this is slave entertainment, family. I didn't even know who Kim Irving was until the Jews said they didn't like him anymore. I still haven't even understood what happened. And I haven't even, dive deep into it because it's really none of my business. Not my circus, not my monkeys, literally, with all due respect. And the only reason I'm addressing this, family, is because you have to start to understand and see that this is slave entertainment. I don't know if Kanye or if Kim Irving are controlled opposition or whether they're actually awakening, but it doesn't matter, family. Because I really feel like the slave entertainment and even our discussion of it keeps us in a time loop. And when I look at the things that melanated people are producing online, or the kind of conversations that are drawing our attention, it's like the melanated world is stuck in this Babylon created time loop. We're stuck in outrage, almost dead, but total inaction. So some crazy stuff will go down, someone will come and say something transformational. It will go round and round and round and round like wildfire around our community, but that wildfire won't catch into any kind of action. I was hoping that with everything that happened, I think Kim was like, I saw like another thing where like Nike or some companies, whatever, refused to work with him. And some same with Kanye. Guys, I don't know the full story, so I don't even know which companies, but this is kind of what I was seeing on Insta and stuff on my timeline. I didn't see any of our people saying, "Yo, I'm not gonna buy those shoes for Thanksgiving. I'm not gonna support that brand because they've banned one of our speakers." I've not seen the Black nation saying, "Okay, we're boycotting the NBA, or we're gonna boycott those games." I haven't even seen any. I think it's only Farrakhan, bless his soul, man, for real, bless his soul. Oh my gosh, he's the only one family who has actually come out and defended the two, but I haven't seen any other so-called Black leader or Black representative come out and defend what they're saying, because it's a slave entertainment, family. Basketball, football, Olympics. This is how they kept the slaves in Rome happy and kept the show keeping on. It's because people were so focused on that. And when you see these things reach fever pitch, not only are they using these two men as a lesson to anyone else who has any kind of power or money or status that has been given to them by Babylon. It's kind of a warning, like, yo, if you try and awaken your people, that's not the contract you signed. That's not the blood contract you signed. We will take you down. We will take away your money, and we'll use you as an example. It's the exact same thing, family, that used to happen in the slave days, where they dismember one of the slaves who had tried to run away and totally, just make it so horrific to fill the other slaves with so much trauma and fear that they would never think of going against the master. And if you're still stuck in that time loop, then there's a problem, because there's so much more going on, family. Our ancient ones are back. The ancestors are here. New Earth is literally, bubbling into existence. And Babylon is falling. It's crashing out. And not enough of our melanated people, the ones with real power, are even paying attention to what is going on in Babylon, because they know the agreements they signed. And if you're not willing, if there's no action that's being taken by our people, because a fire, they like light the fire, where they light that anger, they light that frustration, they light that, this is an injustice. But then people sit behind their keyboards, and that's how they express their fire. They don't demonstrate, they don't stand up and do anything. They don't even use their dollar to, boycott the system. It's just all about us talking and saying things that make us feel somehow satisfied, like something's going to change just because we all pay attention. People should be using these social media platforms to do something about it. It's like here in Kenya, for a while, okay, so there's a lot going on since the elections, and there's been a lot of insecurity in our capital city, Nairobi. And this has been trending day after day after day, where people, you're the same ones who were outraged when someone else said something. But how have you changed your life? How have you helped to change our collective? How many of you are now encouraging someone like Kanye because he was rejected? I think he lost like 600 million. I saw something like that from his Adidas deal or something like that, or Nike or whoever he was working for. How many of you have even been like, okay, Kanye, start your own shoe line and we'll support you? None. And to be honest, many of the enlightened ones have no idea what's going on in the situation. And I know I'll see that in the comments. I'll get emails like, you shouldn't have talked about that because it's not our reality. Me, I want to be part of the community now. That something happens, I release a story here, like the Pope is coming to Africa. And all of us go to our altars, go to our spiritual corners and do a little something. And that visit is canceled. Those are the people I'm moving with now. And that's why I'm so particular about the particular news stories I share. Because it's for that purpose. And I realize, I'm so honored for all the messengers, the healers, the transformers, the ancient ones that tune into my channel, the very gifted ones. I feel your presence, family. I feel your love. I feel your support, which is why I'm still even releasing shows.
Okay, any comments on that?
It was saying something about, I read it right, mysterious Hollywood elites, right?
Right.
Is that okay? So we know that sacrifice is giving up something to receive something.
Right.
So thinking like I'm thinking, so did he sacrifice his mom? He's
That's what
saying
the word is.
mysterious,
That's what the
but I
word
don't
is.
think. Say that again.
That's what the word is. That's what is going around around in circles, in certain circles, is that, you know, all the celebrities have to make a sacrifice.
Right.
You know,
So that mysterious part, I don't believe that he knows.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but notice how she kept calling Kim Irvin. And that's something. That's a
Wow.
disconnect right there. And that
Right.
says a lot. That says a lot. You know, they go right along with us as Hebrew Israelites and Christians. You know, they don't know nothing about what's going on, but they have a voice, or they have an influence on a lot of people, but they don't have the voice or the proper knowledge to deal with it. There's some. Okay, got another one right here. The new bill they just passed. I'm gonna get it. Okay.
the vote on the cloture on the motion to proceed to the Respect of Marriage Act, the Respect for Marriage Act. can tell you what happened there.
But can you tell me? I know it's a secret meeting. Can you tell me what happened with the? Because I want to get into that. Can you tell me what happened with the Harry Reid winning again? How? Or not Harry Reid, Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So yesterday we had our leadership election. Senate among minority leader among Senate Republicans. This is he's been the leader now for 16 years, and he was reelected yesterday. We had a lengthy discussion about that, and some of us took a different approach. But at the end of the day, that was the vote that was cast, and that's the vote that will carry.
What do we have to do, Mike, to get people? I mean, there's a fight in the Republican Party of this, I guess 1956 kind of, view of how things have to be done and what the government means. Very progressive, and just very docile. And then there's a new group of people who are like, look, I mean, I don't want to go back to the 1800s or the 1700s, but we got a little thing here that we used to call the Constitution and Bill of Rights, and we need to restore that because this isn't a constitutional republic anymore. How do we get the GOP out of the way of those people, or is it too late for that?
Well, look, first of all, the decision about whom to elect doesn't preclude necessarily or taking any particular action. As I've long said, the leadership of the Republican conference tends in one way or another to reflect where the center of gravity is among Senate Republicans. But there's something new happening. We've got more Republican senators today than we ever have before who understand at their core that there's something fundamentally wrong, that we're spending way too much money on the federal government and that we've got to turn it around. And so we're moving forward now with the new core group of leaders who are pushing harder than ever because we don't have time to waste. We're $31 trillion in debt. We've got a federal government that requires people to work months out of every year just to pay their federal taxes, and then months more out of every year just to pay the backdoor hidden expenses associated with federal regulations. The American people are demanding that we fight back harder, and you're going to see that.
I hope so, Mike. I think you guys have. I think the GOP has one more shot, and it's in the next 2 years. And if you're not doing something, I don't know what's going to happen. I just don't know what's going to happen. But people are tired of it. So, Mike, tell me about this Defense of Marriage Act.
Hey, looking for a pre-owned vehicle? Well,
this seems like an extreme idea.
Yeah, so the Respect for Marriage Act is something that purports to be a codification of the Supreme Court's ruling in 2015 of Bergefell versus Hodges, recognizing gay marriage.
Okay, hang on just a second. That's because they put this in because I think of Clarence Thomas in his dissent. He kind of hinted that he would be willing to look at this again.
No one joined him in that opinion.
Yeah, I know that, but that's the excuse they're using, that they want to seal this for all time.
Right. And a couple of things to keep in mind. You're referring to Justice Thomas's concurring opinion in the Dobbs decision a few months ago, which dealt with abortion, not marriage. He was referring to a line of precedent and just said, there are a number of lines of precedent that have evolved under the substantive due process standard in time. Perhaps they should be reviewed to figure out whether there's a better place for them and appropriate review. He was joined by no other justice in that. And he also didn't go through what are called the stare decisis factors. The stare decisis analysis would determine whether the Supreme Court continues to defer to that case. Look, gay marriage isn't going away.
No.
It's not. The Supreme Court's not undoing that. I can tell you as a former appellate and Supreme Court litigator, it's just not a chance in hell the Supreme Court's walking away from that. And gay marriages that have been legal now for 7 years aren't going away. So that begs the question, what's the real purpose for this? Well, when I looked at the bill and I looked at the way the bill is written, and what it says, and just as importantly, what it doesn't say, and how it would interact with other protections of federal law, the federal civil rights legislation, as well as Supreme Court precedent interpreting those laws. I saw a real risk of retaliation by the federal government against religious institutions.
Oh, they never retaliate.
Schools, charitable organizations, adoption agencies with a religious mission, purpose, and funder. That they're going around touting this as solving the problem, and it doesn't solve the problem, which should give people added reason to be very suspicious of this legislation.
On the same topic, I'm about to start a campaign to draft your attorney general to run for Mitt Romney's seat, because I think he would win in a landslide. And based on your numbers, I think a guy with his record could win. Now, I know you wouldn't, because you have friends on both sides, so you wouldn't endorse anything like that. So what I'm saying,
I do indeed have I'm friends with both of them. That is an excellent point.
Yeah. So you don't want to, what do you think of that idea of me just not connected to you, but
yeah. So it's an idea that has been out there, an idea that, and I don't want to take away anything from your thunder here, Glenn.
Yeah, no. I'm glad to hear somebody else is thinking that way. How can I help them? Maybe.
No, that's an idea that's been floated. I don't know. I don't know what will happen. Yeah. 2024 seems like a long way from here. I know it'll be around in just a minute. But speaking of marriage and respect for marriage, I am worried about one thing, Glenn. In your Relief Factor plug just a moment ago, you did an imitation of your wife that did not sound at all like your wife.
Oh, you are sadly mistaken. You don't know her, Mike. You don't know her. Help me.
Perhaps in that moment, something happens to her vocal cords.
Yeah, no, she talks like this all the time.
Seems like you're both trying to get each other in trouble right now.
I know. We could talk about Mitt some more. So one last thing, you were on our special that aired last night, the Targets of Tyranny. You leaned over to me at one point and said, "This is the most frightening thing I think I've ever seen."
Yeah, look, the group of people, the group of victims of government overreach that you assembled for that show, and for any of your listeners out there who haven't yet seen it, I strongly encourage them to do it. It's the best thing I've seen, the best encapsulation within a short period of time of why you should be skeptical of government, of why you should be especially concerned about the federal government right now. We saw instance after instance of good, solid, law-abiding American citizens whose rights are being threatened, intimidated, harassed, cajoled, or otherwise beaten out of them. And
okay. Yeah, they passed a new bill. I think it's called the Defensive Marriage Act, which is causing a ruckus up in Washington, D.C. I think it was yesterday or a couple days ago it passed. Okay. Got
It's just amazing. But anyway, I want to show you guys this video, and I'll react after we watch it and talk about it a little bit. But it's wild. The times we're living in is wild. So let me go on and bring this up. Hopefully everything works good right here. But I'm gonna bring it up and we'll react to it. Wild.
What's about to happen on Mount Sinai is absolutely insane. Religious leaders are gathering November 6th through the 18th for a ceremony they're calling Returning to Sinai, where they say that they're going to issue a new 10 commandments to repent for man-made climate change. The website Interface for Sustainable article discussing the upcoming event titled In Sinai, a prophetic call for climate justice and ceremony of repentance. Mount Sinai is, of course, where Moses received the 10 commandments, but these religious leaders are actually calling for a new universal 10 commandments. In that article, it states the project partners will bring together premier religious leaders from the world's major religions to gather upon Mount Sinai to engage in a first ever climate repentance ceremony and to pull forth a prophetic interreligious call to action, climate justice, 10 universal commandments. I've got a full video I just posted covering this on my.
So, come on. It's wild that anybody, especially as Christians, could be okay with this. There's just it's just totally crazy that nobody can open their eyes and see what's going on. Why okay. I will lock arms with people for a common purpose, but not for the purpose of compromising my Christianity, right? Will I stand with a Muslim, a Hindu, a Buddhist for something, just a humanitarian need or something like that? I'm not going to be to do good. I mean, I can stand with any politician or anything for the sake of a hurricane relief thing or earthquake. I mean, you're going to come together with anybody to bring about something good, right? And this is a chance for us Christians to show Christ in situations like this. But something like this, you're coming together unified for the Pope and these other leaders from other religions are coming together unified for a demonic purpose. It's just the truth, to bring about this one world system that they have planned. And then that it's just the bottom line. This is an agenda. At the core, it's an agenda. If you don't have eyes to see, you'll be deceived by what's going on. You'll be like, oh, it ain't a big deal. But if you really study what's really behind the climate change stuff and what's really behind some of the other stuff, you'll be surprised what the total end result of it is. It's crazy. It's crazy what the whole agenda has behind it. Just do your research, okay? I'm just here because, well, you guys know why. But what these people are doing right here, making a new 10 commandments, I mean, you got to mark all this. I mean, it's like I said in the beginning, it's mockery. Why would they say that? I mean, why would you say a new 10 commandments? I mean, come on. It's just total mockery, total ridiculousness. And it's not okay. It's not okay. So I'll lock arms under the right context, but I'm not going to compromise my faith. You understand? I'm not going to say that we all believe in the same God. No. Muslims and Hindus and Buddhists, we don't believe in the same God. And I've heard people with that deceiving spirit within them say, oh, we believe in the same God. And all. No, we don't. It's not the same God. And I can show you, if we really have a deep discussion, I can show you, because all these other religions, they go against the divinity. They try to they try to disrespect Jesus by removing his divinity as being God. Anytime somebody comes around and says Jesus isn't God, that's when you got to go, whoa, hold on a second here. That's not right. And they try to call him other things, like I believe it's what is that? I believe it's Jehovah Witness. Anyway, they try to take away the divinity of Jesus Christ, and that's not cool. But guys, some interesting times. We got to stay prayed up in these last days, and we got to keep speaking truth. This is an hour that we need to speak truth more than ever, and we need to stay alert, because there's There's people that are dying and going to hell every day, and we don't want that. We got to tell people truth. We got to know truth. Life is, and that is Jesus Christ. And we got to pray.
Okay, what you think about that? Pope on Mount Sinai. Anybody heard that?
Say that again, Brother Leonard. You was a little low.
The Pope is they on Mount Sinai right now as he's speaking. It's from the 6th to the 17th. Or the 18th. They had a big meeting on Mount Sinai where they said they reissued a new set of 10 Commandments.
Seemed like I saw that video. Wow.
Read that song?
Yeah.
Okay. So right here, we at the point where we're going to open it up for some Q&A. Anybody have any questions or comments about anything that they heard on Prophets of Awakening or something they came across in their research? Okay, I got a video right here. These couple had they watched Hebrews and Negroes the video, and they doing a little review on it. So I'm just gonna scan through.
Because if you keep plugging it up, I'm only 50%, and that's what it'll give you. It'll die fast if you keep doing that. And I'm pretty sure that's what you do. You plug every time you sit down, you plug your stuff up so it won't die, don't you? That's why it dies all the time.
I don't understand that. I'm sorry. I don't.
I understand, but I'm just telling you.
Hey, welcome to the DG show.
The reason for that.
Dana and Coco. What's going on, folks? Tonight we are getting into Hebrews to Negroes. We are live on YouTube, the Angry Black Dude station, as well as the Angry Black Dude.
A nice show.
As well as there we go. As well as TikTok, the Angry Black Dude also. What's going on, folks? So now I want to say this. I watched it for the controversy because Kyrie brought a whole bunch of attention to it. So I watched it for the controversy. And I ain't see much. Truthfully.
Controversy. Yeah.
Did you see any?
I did not. I saw part of it before. Because it's been up there since 2018.
That's what I was trying to figure out.
Yes,
2018.
I love documentaries. So it is something that I attempted to watch.
Right.
But it's like 3+ hours. And so it didn't grab me.
Hey, Callie.
And then all of this time now, when it came out with the controversy, I said, I don't remember controversy. Let me go back and watch it.
Right.
And so I watched it because of the controversy.
Right.
And by the first time watching it, not so much. But I didn't remember it having controversy. I don't remember how much of it I watched. And it did not cost $11.
That's what I saw. Did it cost anything?
No.
Or would you just, if you were part of Amazon Prime,
it
was, listen, Jeff Bezos cashed in.
Yeah.
He just made some Wakanda money for
They know when to cash in. They know when to cash in.
It's $12, folks.
Yeah.
It's $12. So I'm gonna tell
$40 if you want to buy it. It's $11 to rent.
Right. It's for 48 hours.
Buy it. I think it's 40, 49. No, it might be 50.
It's
no,
50. It's 50 to buy.
$49.99 to buy, and $11 to rent for 48 hours. So.
Someone just asked, we talking about the movie we're doing. So my thing that surprised me was the same thing that let me know nobody watched that movie, because nobody talked about the fact that it's 3.5 hours long.
That's the first thing I saw. I'm like,
when I'm
whoa.
you know, look, I got my notebook. I grabbed my notebook, had some snacks, sit down. 3.5 hours, 2 seconds.
Yeah.
2 seconds. So just the fact that it was that long.
I did more than 2 seconds.
You said more than 2?
Yeah, I didn't have time.
Right. I'm with you because that's 3.5 hours. Yeah. Just the fact that it was that long and nobody commented on it, but everybody had something to say about it, I knew nobody watched it. They just went with you speaking against who? Well, we running with that.
Right.
I'm coming to their rescue. What you coming to their rescue for?
But I was curious to know the people who are really speaking on it against a particular group.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if they actually watched the whole thing.
Right.
Because I don't think so. Because I didn't see. I see why Kyrie got in trouble. Even though, my opinion, he did nothing wrong. I didn't do anything. He didn't do anything wrong. And I can't. What the movie did, in my opinion, is to make our people look at things. Just look at things, not differently, not any kind of way. Just look at things.
Look at it.
Because
get the information, digest it for yourself.
Mm-hmm. And then go because we talked about it, and I said I didn't take any notes on it. The reason I didn't take any notes is because I'm not gonna take what they said, run with it, and then say, "Oh, here's the truth."
Right.
I need to check fact what they said.
Right.
And not enough of us check fact anything.
I agree.
I agree. Clip of something.
We run with it. We might run with it for years.
Right. And not to get on him, and I know we'll talk about him, but we was hating Kanye so bad when he said slavery was a choice. Did anybody ever listen to the whole thing?
Right.
What he was talking about?
Right.
I don't think so, because they wouldn't have been mad at him.
Right.
He wasn't saying.
He wants you to think another way.
He wasn't talking about chattel slavery. That's not what he was talking about. He was talking about the very same thing that Prince was talking about when he showed up with slave on his face.
Right.
That's was don't own their rights and their slaves to the system.
Right.
That's what he was talking about. But you didn't listen to the whole video. You listened to the clip that said that he said slavery was a choice. That's all you listened to?
Right.
What's the clip? You didn't go out of context, because we take these clips out of context because we watching the news, which again I don't particularly do. I do from time to time, just so I can keep my head in the game a little bit. Local news really sucks.
Yeah.
But we take these clips that they show us, and then we run with the clip. We don't do any more research. We didn't go read the article. Right. Any of that stuff. So the movie just wanted you to go and look. Just look for yourself.
For some information.
For some information to try to see. And also, I wasn't interested in slamming any particular group
right. I'm with you
people or anything like that. I wasn't interested in that.
Right.
But that's not really what they did.
They didn't.
They didn't do
not
that
at all.
They used the Bible as a tool.
As a point of reference.
As a point of reference.
Yes.
And they didn't dissect the passage or anything, told you what the passage meant or anything like that. They said, this is what it says. In this area, these are what the people in this area looks like.
Right.
That's what they did, basically. And they identified the group of people that are from that area originally and things like that. Now, I paid attention in some areas that they spoke about only because I did my African DNA.
Okay.
And based on
Well, you black, so what you 89%?
No, I'm actually 70%. Okay. If you must know, I'm 70 because we just a mixed bag of
I think
tricks.
I'm 98.
Then I had, well, not more common per se, but culturally, then I had with my Haitian husband. Very different cultures. Very different cultures. American culture, even though Black American culture is a little different from white American culture, but
closer.
Closer and a lot of similarities.
Right.
But we're talking about language barrier. We're talking about family culture barrier.
Yeah, behavior and certain things. Yeah.
Religion, everything. Right. Everything is different. Everything is different. And so nobody discusses that though.
No, we don't.
Because we both Black.
You both, yeah.
Because we just
y'all good.
Black.
Y'all good. Y'all in the house stressed out over some cultural stuff.
Right. But we both Black, so it's all good.
They supposed to go that way.
Right. It ain't supposed to go that way. Now, it's a lot of different things I could speak on between cultures in my they would have been a problem. Right. It would have been a problem.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I understand. I definitely understand.
They were newly married. Bought their first house. You had a couple of cats and dogs. Didn't have their first child yet. They were very liberal.
Right.
Very liberal.
Right.
Tree huggers, all of that kind of. Yeah. Love everybody.
Tree huggers. I remember in that neighborhood. You remember Keith Broadwater? Little short one. He brought a weed plant to elementary school like fifth grade. He used to hang with Steve Martin. The only time
he just be putting people's name out there. They don't put people's surname out there because y'all don't go looking them up.
So anybody on here went and watched the Hebrews and Negroes movie yet?
No.
You haven't seen it in its entirety? Okay, yeah, so
Brother Leonard, I have a question for you. Move forward right quick. The video that you played about the Pope on the mountain, right? What do you think about that? What's your take on that?
Like I said before, when you understand what the New Testament is and that they concocted it, all they're doing is trying to fulfill it. They when they concocted JC, put him in and use typology and put him in the Old Testament, they're taking the place or call themselves playing the role of the creator and the role of Yahweh, the Lord of hosts. It's like I was saying about how when you go back and you look at the events, all the events, when you rightly divide them, search them out, do your due diligence, you'll find out 2020, in the year 2001, they had the attack on the World Trade Center. Then 2008, 7 years later, the Most High told Israel, 6 years when you're dealing with the land, 6 years you till the ground, the 7th year you allow it to rest. So it's a 7-year cycle. They doing the same thing. They operating as if they took the knowledge of the Creator off the earth and out of his people's minds. They playing the role of the Creator. So we as Israelites and as Hebrew Israelites, we have an end time. that was written down by our forefathers, by the prophets, they received from the angels, and they sabotaged that, and they got their own end times, and they're using the technology that they've acquired to try to bring that all about. It's like, and so the person that haven't did their due diligence and and they're not dealing with the spirit of the Most High, they can't comprehend these things. Like I said, for instance, you tell somebody that, these hurricanes being manipulated. They can't find them there. They don't think that these people are manipulating the hurricanes, manipulating the weather, cloud seeding and doing all this stuff. They don't believe that, but they are. They doing all this. They dictating stuff and they doing stuff. That's the reason why their punishment is going to be so severe when the Creator do come. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob do show up. The punishment going to be horrendous. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, yes. It's like they're just continuing to try and do away with the old and bring in something new. And
Right.
it's almost like what can I say? Like they're mocking. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because Leviticus, Deuteronomy, it tells you, these are the commandments, and follow these commandments.
Right.
And it's like they
Right.
just, yeah, yeah. Mm.
Right. It's like I was saying before. It's a joke when you receive the knowledge from the Most High to a certain extent, and you have a foundation under you. Stuff like this is a joke because you already know there's nowhere prophesied nowhere in our records that they were going back to Mount Sinai for some more commandments. So
Right.
it's just like I was saying last night that it's nowhere prophesied that he's going to have a son come out in the open, laying hands on people, healing people. That ain't what he said. When our forefathers was ran out of the land of Israel because of their disobedience, he said that he was gonna hide his face from them. And then in the latter days, where we at now, we were gonna return to the scriptures because he's gonna pour his spirit out on us, and then we're gonna find him in the scriptures. So that means that up until that point, he was lost. And he was hidden. He had allowed these people to hide him from his people through the scriptures. Yeah. Okay. So with that being said, last night on Clubhouse, I had the title in the room was Israel was not destroyed. What I did was I went back, based looking at the times and everything that's going on. Felt the need to go back over that again. So based on what happened last night and the information that was conveyed, I'm doing a follow up tonight on our advanced Bible study our night for Thursday night. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play what I had. I'm gonna play and this is for what I'm doing is I'm kind of spreading the net out because because this is some information that need to be heard, especially by Israelites. So if maybe somebody on Clubhouse will hear it, and so if they don't, then I can put it over here on Prophets of Awakening, and maybe they'll come across it through that. So I'm just like I said, I'm kind of spreading the net out. So I'm gonna play this right here to lay the foundation, like I did last night. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Go ahead. In a minute. What's going on? There we go. Yeah, so over and over again, they told us that, you know, they laid the narrative that Israel, the Israelites left, was ran out of Israel in 70 AD. And we can see, like I said, now with that we in these latter days and the Most High Point Spirit on us, the people that left in 70 AD, they went up into Europe. And they show you that over and over again by the journeys that Paul took, the 7 churches. He went up into Europe. Those places are in Europe, but we know now from rightly dividing the scriptures and all that, that Israel is people of color and that they fled into Egypt when they left. So that's two different expulsions from the land. One is in 143 BC by the Israelites, and the other one by Jews, so-called Jews, Edomites, that stole the land during the time of Antiochus. And they came in the land and they built the temple. They picked up a division and built the temple through Herod. And that temple wasn't authorized by the Creator. Herod and they took it upon themselves to build the temple. We was reading last night how when Antiochus Epiphanes came, he did the same thing that Nebuchadnezzar did. He took all of the furniture and all the anointed stuff out of the temple and took it off. So you got to ask yourself, what's this temple that they got during the time of Pontius Pilate and all that? You know, because it was already prophesied to the Israelites that they was going to be kicked out of the land, and not only that, the land was going to be desolate. And his main reason was the Israelites wouldn't obey him. They continuously went to other gods, worshiping them in his own temple. So in his indignation and his anger, he tore the temple down. So why would he build it back? Why would he rebuild a temple that he tore down because of his indignation and because they're disobedient? It didn't make no sense. Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna play this. Okay. Hebrews, I'm here to talk about a topic that no one has really dealt with. Everyone knows that we are at the very end of prophecy. The United States and the UN has acknowledged who we are through the passing of the bill HR 1242. The UN has also committed itself to the welfare of the people of African descent by implementing the International Decade of People of African Descent, which lasts from 2015 to 2024. With that being said, my fellow Hebrew Israelites, and understanding the times, I have listened to many Hebrew Israelites over the past 12 years, some on YouTube, some in books, and some in documentaries. I've listened to their outlook on different topics, such as the curses, the identity of the real Hebrew Israelites of the Torah, Esau, the Sabbath, the end times, and the regathering and return of Israel to their homeland. A lot of information is delivered and revealed in the process. The information is very, very informative and good. We have Messianics and non-Messianics all delivering very good information. Their sources are the King James Bible, the Apocrypha, Book of Enoch, Jasher, and Jubilees, and etc. These books are used to expound upon their information. In keeping with my fellow Hebrew Israelites, I'm going to use the King James Bible and the Apocrypha to reveal my point, which brings me to my topic, which is Israel was not destroyed in 70 AD. The reason for me dealing with this topic is because so many people, Hebrews and Christians alike, believe that Israel was destroyed as a nation in 70 AD. The scriptures doesn't say that. As a matter of fact, the scriptures tells us that 143 BC was the time appointed for Israel to cease from being a nation. Daniel 8, verse 19. In order for me to shine a light on this very fact, I'm going to start in the King James Bible in the book of Daniel. Daniel 8, verses 1 through 26. In Daniel verses 1 through 14, Daniel has a vision of a ram and an eagle. Daniel saw the ram, which had two very high horns, pushing westward, northward, and southward. No one could contend with it. Then out of nowhere came a he-goat and smote the ram and broke its two horns. The he-goat waxed great and magnified himself to the prince of the host. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away. The truth was cast to the ground, and the sanctuary was cast down. Israel's transgressions caused the abominations that make it desolate, and they practice and prosper. In verses 15 through 26 of Daniel 8, the archangel comes and explains the vision to Daniel. He tells Daniel that he has come to make him know what shall be in the last end of indignation. For at the time appointed, the end shall be. A question is posed at this point. The question being, what is the time appointed and what is the end? The answer being the end of Israel as a nation. Gabriel informed Daniel that the temple will be destroyed, the daily sacrifices will be stopped, and the abomination that maketh death is set up. Gabriel then tells Daniel the ram is the Medes and Persians, the second beast of Daniel 7, verse 5. And the he-goat is Greece, the third beast in Daniel 7, verse 6. Gabriel informs Daniel that the great horn between the he-goat's eyes, is the first king of Greece, which is Alexander the Great. Gabriel tells Daniel that Alexander was broken and that the Greek kingdom would be divided into four parts. Alexander's four generals. Daniel 8, verse 22. Gabriel further informs Daniel that that at the latter end of the Greek kingdom, the third beast, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences, will stand up. Daniel 9, verse 23. This king is none other than Antiochus Epiphanes, the son of King Antiochus, which make him a prince. Daniel 9, verse 26. Gabriel informs Daniel that Antiochus' power will be mighty, but not by his own power. He will destroy wonderfully and shall prosper in practice and shall destroy the Israelites, the holy people. Daniel 9, verse 24. Gabriel informs Daniel that through Antiochus' policies, he would cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he would magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. Daniel 8, verse 25. Once Gabriel informs Daniel that Israel will be destroyed and cease to exist as a nation by the hands of the Greeks and Antiochus Epiphanes, the third beast of Daniel 7, verse 6, Daniel was alarmed, and he began to pray and make supplications with fasting and sackcloth and ashes. Daniel 9, verses 1 through 19. While Daniel was speaking and praying and confessing his sins and the sins of Israel, Gabriel appeared to him again and informed him that 70 weeks of years are determined upon the people of Israel and upon the holy city Jerusalem, to finish the transgressions and to make an end of sin and to make reconciliation for the iniquity and to bring in everlasting righteousness and to seal up the vision and the prophecy and anoint the most holy. Daniel 9, verse 20 through 24. Remember now, Israelites, that Daniel and Israel are still in captivity in Babylon because of their sins. They are getting ready to be released from Babylon to return to the land of Israel to rebuild the temple. Therefore, Gabriel is letting Daniel know in Daniel 9, verse 24, that 490 years is determined upon Jerusalem. A trial period is determined upon Jerusalem in order that they may try and get it right with the Lord. 70 weeks equals 7 times 70, which equals 490 years. In Daniel 9, verse 25, Gabriel informs Daniel that Cyrus, the Persian, will give the commandment, the proclamation for Israel to return to the land and rebuild the temple. Ezra 1, verses 1 through 4. In the same verse, 9, verse 25 of Daniel, Gabriel lets Daniel know that from the Messiah, which is Zerubbabel, the prince of Judah, who is also out of the lineage of David, Ezra 1, verse 8, Sheshbazzar is Zerubbabel's captive name. The streets would be built again, and the wall, even in troublesome times. Nehemiah 4, verses 13 to 23. Zechariah chapter 4, verses 6 through 10 confirms that Zerubbabel would indeed rebuild the temple. Zerubbabel, Nehemiah, Ezra, and the Israelites returned to Jerusalem and rebuilt the temple, the wall, and the city of Jerusalem. But the Israelites began to sin against the Lord again after many years. Therefore, what Gabriel reveals to Daniel in chapter 9, verses 26 through 27, came to pass. The people of the prince that shall come, Antioch Epiphanes, shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood. And until the end of the war, desolations are determined. And he, Antiochus, shall confirm the covenant with many Israelites for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifices and the oblations to cease. And for the overspreading of the abomination, he shall make it desolate, even unto the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desert. My fellow Hebrew Israelites, when you examine the book of Malachi, the last book of the Old Testament, it ends with the Israelites in the Medo-Persian kingdom, the second beast. And when you examine the book of Matthew, the first book of the New Testament, it begins with the fourth beast of Daniel 7, verse 7. The Greek kingdom, the third beast, which Gabriel explains to Daniel that will destroy the kingdom of Israel by the hand of Antioch Epiphanes, is not there. My fellow Hebrew Israelites, this prophecy did not come to pass. The third beast, the Greek kingdom, has been taken out and hidden from the reader, which makes us go to the Apocrypha and examine the first book of Maccabees in order to find out when the Hebrew Israelites were driven out of the land of Israel and it became desolate. In 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1, it states, "It came to pass after Alexander of Macedon, son of Philip, who came from the land of Chittim, had utterly defeated Darius, the king of the Medes and Persians, that he reigned in his stead as he had before reigned over Greece." Verses 6 and 7 states that afterwards Alexander fell sick and knew that he was going to die, so he called in his distinguished servants who had been brought up with him and divided his kingdom among them while he was alive, his 4 generals. These verses verify what Gabriel revealed to Daniel in Daniel verses 8, 9 through 25. He goes on to say in 1 Maccabees 1, verse 10, that there sprang from them a sinful shoot named Antioch Epiphanes, the son of King Antiochus. He had been a hostage in Rome, and he became king in the 137th year of BC of the Greek kingdom. In verse 11 through 15, some of the Israelites make a treaty with Antioch for 7 years. The plan seemed good in their eyes, and some of the Israelites went eagerly to the king, and he authorized them to introduce the practices of the heathen. And they built a gymnasium in Jerusalem in the heathen fashion and submitted to uncircumcision and disregarded and disowned the holy agreement that they had with the Lord. They allied themselves with the heathen and became slaves of wrongdoing. Notice now, my fellow Hebrew Israelites, that the events are playing out just as Gabriel had informed Daniel. It goes on to say in 1 Maccabees 1, verses 20 through 28, that after subduing Egypt in the 143rd year BC, Antiochus turned back. He came up against Israel and entered into Jerusalem with a strong force. Let me read that again. It goes on to say in First Maccabees, chapter 1, verses 20 through 28, that after subduing Egypt in the 143rd year BC, Antiochus turned back. He came up against Israel and entered into Jerusalem with a strong force. And in his arrogance, he went into the sanctuary, the temple, and took the gold altar and the lampstand for the light, and all its furniture, and the table for the presentation of bread, and the cups, and the bowls, and the gold ornamentations on the front of the temple, for he stripped it all off. And he took the secret treasures which he found, he took them all and went back to his country. He massacred the people and spoke with great arrogance. There was great mourning everywhere throughout Israel. Rulers and elders mourned, girls and young men fainted away, and the beauty of the women was altered. Every bridegroom began to laminate, and she that sat in the bridal chamber grieved. The very earth was shaken over its inhabitants, and the whole house of Jacob was covered with shame. Verses 38 states that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled away because of the Greeks, and Jerusalem became a place where strangers lived, and Jerusalem became strange to her own offspring, and her children forsook her, fulfilling Daniel 9, verse 26 through 27, and Daniel 8, verse 25. My fellow Hebrew Israelites, we know now that Israel was destroyed in 143 BC, not in 70 AD. Antioch Epiphanes and the Greeks brought Israel nation to an end, not the Romans. In closing, I must leave you with some food for thought. And that is, if the Greeks destroyed the Israelites in 143 BC, then who did the Romans destroy and drive out in 70 AD? Shalom, shalom, shalom.
Okay, any comments on that? Any points anybody want to bring out? Okay, so two things in that to get to the point, to shine a light on this, because it's of the utmost importance that it's understood and rightly divided. So Daniel 9:25, it says everybody at one point was in Christianity. And Daniel 9:25 is one of the verses that tell you that that's Jesus the Christ, Son of God. And that Daniel 9:25 is a futuristic prophecy. So I want to shine a light on that right quick. It says, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks, 62 weeks, and the streets shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublesome times. So let me break this down, because a lot of people, for the longest, they was in Christianity and didn't even understand this, what they were saying. So it says, what they telling you in Christianity is that this is the Messiah, and that the temple that he's talking about in this verse is in the future. It's gonna be rebuilt, but when they start building it, the Messiah gonna get cut off, and then for a time, then he's gonna come back and start back building again. And in that same verse, it's saying that it's only 69 weeks. So when you say weeks, you're saying, like I was saying earlier, 6 years you till the ground. The 7th year you let the ground rest, called a year of release. Altogether 67, 61 is 7. That's a week of years. So in that story right here, they're saying that it's a 1 week left out, and that week ain't been fulfilled yet. It's gonna be fulfilled by so-called Jesus the Christ in Revelations. That where they're gonna make a treaty with the Antichrist, and the Antichrist is gonna make a treaty with the Israelites, us, and then he's gonna turn against us at 3.5 years. He's gonna turn against us. So we're supposed to make a treaty with the Antichrist. So they're saying that Daniel 9:25 is a prophecy in the future. So I want to show you something in Daniel 9:25. The Creator, being that He's super wise and way more wiser than any man gonna ever be. When they concocted this and construed it, it says, I'm gonna read it again. Know therefore understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince shall be 7 weeks. 7 weeks, 62 weeks. Then he also said, the street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublesome times. So we see that, just like we talked about last night when we was going over this, that this Daniel is in Babylon. It's 4 beasts. Daniel in Babylon. He got this prophecy in Babylon. So what he's telling them is that you're gonna leave. They're only gonna be in Babylon for 70 years. And right now, when Daniel received this, they right at 69 years. It's almost time for them to go. That's why he's receiving this information. So he's telling them you're gonna go back. Zerubbabel, which is the Messiah in this verse, him and Josiah is gonna go back to Jerusalem, and you're gonna rebuild the temple. But you're gonna get cut off. They're gonna cut y'all off. They're gonna cut him off for 2 years. And then the point I'm making is, he says, the street shall be built again and the wall. The Creator made a point that to have that in there. So it says, and the wall. So if you go back to Nehemiah, and I'm in chapter 4. I'm gonna start reading at verse 13, because I mentioned these scriptures, but I didn't expound on them. So I'm expounding to show you this wall that's in Daniel 9:25 to show you that all this stuff already happened. So actually, Nehemiah, the book of Nehemiah and Ezra goes after Daniel. They got Daniel after these books, but Daniel actually go before these books, because of what happened in Nehemiah and what happened in Ezra is fulfilling what happened in Daniel. Daniel came first. Daniel's dream came first. So I'm in Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 13. We shining the light on this wall. He said they're going to go back and he's going to rebuild the wall that David built all the way around Jerusalem and the temple. It says, Nehemiah 4:13. Therefore, set I, this is Nehemiah talking, therefore, set I in the lower places behind the wall. It's the wall. And on the higher places, okay, let me make sure I get this right. The street shall be built again and the wall in troublesome times, right? So it's going to be drama going on while they trying to build this wall. So it says, Nehemiah 4:13, therefore said I in the lower places behind the wall, and on the higher places, I even set the people after their families with their swords. See that? With their swords and their spears and their bows. And I looked and I rose up and they came back to Jerusalem. They've been released from Babylon. They back and they're trying to build a wall, but the people that was in their land when they got back don't want them to build a wall. They're trying to kill them. And they're trying to cut them off from building it. So from repairing the wall. So it says in 14, I looked, I rose up, and I said unto the nobles, and to the rulers, and to the rest of the people, be ye not afraid of them. Remember the Lord, which is great and terrible, and fight for our brethren, your sons and your daughters and your wives and your houses. And it came to pass when our enemies heard that it was, see that, 15, it came to pass when our enemies heard that it was known unto us, and God had brought their counsel to naught, that we returned, all of us, to the wall, again, everyone to his work. So what Daniel 9:25 is conveying to you, Israel got enemies. The enemies was all around them the whole time, ever since they came into the land of Canaan. So they rejoiced when the Nebuchadnezzar came and took them out, but now they back. They can't believe they came back. So they don't want them back. So 16, and it came to pass from that time forth that half of my servants wrought the work, building the wall, repairing the wall, like Daniel 9:25 said, and the other half of them held both the spears, the shields, and the bows, and the harbingers, and the rulers were behind all the house of Judah. They which builded on the wall, they us, and they that have burdens with those that laden, everyone with one of his hands wrought his work, and the other had held a weapon. For the builders, everyone had his sword girded by his side, and so builded. And he that sounded the trumpet was by me. And I said unto the nobles and unto the rulers and unto the rest of the people, the work is great and large, and we are separated upon the wall. There it is. One far from another. And what place thereof we hear that when in what place where we hear the sound of the trumpet, resort ye thither unto us, and our God shall fight for us. So we labored in the work. Half of them held the spears from the rising of the morning till the stars appeared. Likewise, at the same time said I unto the people, let everyone which is servant lodge within Jerusalem, that in the night they might not be, that they be a guard to us and labor on the day. So neither I nor my brethren, nor my servants, nor the men of the guard which follow me, none of us are put off our clothes, saving that everyone put them off for washing. So there go the wall right there in troublesome times. That's out of Daniel 9:25. And what you can see is all this already happened. All this stuff already transpired. So when I played the little clip just a minute ago, it mentioned how that Alexander fell sick and died. But right before he died, he divided his kingdom up into his 4 generals. So we're gonna pick that up, and we're gonna see that all this stuff that happened. Okay, let me play that. Okay.
Alexander the Great is known best for his genius and his diplomatic skills in handling the various populaces of the regions he conquered. He is further recognized for spreading Greek culture from Greece throughout Asia Minor, Egypt, and Mesopotamia to India, and thus initiating the era of the Hellenistic period. 120 continued his policies of integrating Greek culture with that of the Near East. He died in 323 BCE without clearly naming a successor, or, according to some accounts, his choice of the commander Perdiccas was ignored, and the empire he built was divided among the Diadochi. Without a chosen successor, there was almost immediately a dispute among Alexander's generals as to who his successor should be. The Diadochi were the rival generals, families, and friends of Alexander the Great, who fought for control over his empire after his death. The Wars of the Diadochi marked the beginning of the Hellenistic period from the Mediterranean Sea to the Indus River Valley. The Wars of the Diadochi were a series of conflicts, fought between 322 and 275 BCE. The Diadochi fought over and carved up Alexander's empire into several kingdoms after his death, a legacy which reigned on and continued the influence of ancient Greek culture abroad for over 300 more years. The 5 kingdoms of the Diadochi were Kingdom of Ptolemy I Soter, Kingdom of Cassander, kingdom of Lysimachus, kingdom of Seleucus I Nicator and Epirus. Meleager and the infantry supported the candidacy of Alexander's half-brother, Arrhidaeus, while Perdiccas, the leading cavalry commander, supported waiting until the birth of Alexander's unborn child by Roxana. Later a compromise was arranged. Arrhidaeus should become king and should rule jointly with Roxana's child Alexander IV. Perdiccas himself would become regent of the entire empire, and Meleager his lieutenant. However, Perdiccas had Meleager and the other infantry leaders murdered, and assumed full control. The other cavalry generals who had supported Perdiccas were rewarded in the partition of Babylon by becoming satraps of the various parts of the empire. Macedon and the rest of Greece were to be under the joint rule of Antipater, who had governed them for Alexander, and Craterus, Alexander's most able lieutenant, while Alexander's old secretary, Eumenes of Cardia, was to receive Cappadocia and Paphlagonia. Meanwhile, the news of Alexander's death had inspired a revolt in Greece, known as the Lamian War. Athens and other cities joined together, ultimately besieging Antipater in the fortress of Lamia. Antipater was relieved by a force sent by Leonidas, who was killed in action, but the war did not come to an end until Craterus's arrival with a fleet to defeat the Athenians at the Battle of Cranon on September 5, 322 BCE. For a time, this brought an end to any resistance to Macedonian domination. Meanwhile, Python suppressed a revolt of Greek settlers in the eastern parts of the empire, and Perdiccas and Eumenes subdued Cappadocia. In 310 BCE, Cassander secretly murdered Alexander IV and Roxana. The Battle of Ipsus at the end of the Fourth War of the Diadochi finalized the breakup of the unified empire of Alexander. Antigonus I and his son Demetrius I of Macedon were pitted against the coalition of three other companions of Alexander: Cassander, ruler of Lysimachus, ruler of Thrace, and Seleucus I Nicator, ruler of Babylonia and Persia. Antigonus' son Demetrius took a large part of Macedonia and continued his father's dynasty. After the death of Cassander in rapid succession, the Ptolemies and Seleucids controlled the vast majority of Alexander's former empire, with a much smaller segment controlled by the Antigonid dynasty until the 1st century. This division was to last for a century, before the Antigonid kingdom finally fell to Rome, and the Seleucids were harried from Persia by the Parthians and forced by the Romans to relinquish control in Asia Minor. A Seleucid kingdom was conquered by Pompey in 64 BCE. The Ptolemies lasted longer in Alexandria under Rome, and Egypt was finally annexed into Rome in 30 BCE.
So we see right here that these are, that just like it was prophesied in Daniel, the book of Daniel, that the ram was coming, Medes and Persians, then the Greeks was going to come. And the Greeks was going to, Alexander was going to come, he was going to rule the world, he was going to be broken, which means he died, and he divided the kingdom up into 4 parts, right? King of the south, that's Ptolemy. King of the north, that's Seleucid Empire. Then the east and the west was Lysimachus and Cassander. And at the end, it says at the end of the 3rd beast, not the 4th beast, at the end of the 3rd beast, a king was going to come and destroy the Israelites, the nation of Israel. It was ordained because they had turned away from him, and he didn't want to deal with them no more. So he brought the nation of Israel and the temple to an end, not in 70 AD, but 143 BC. And so Daniel tells you, Daniel chapter 8, that this king, which is Antichrist, because Antichrist is the one that's going to bring Israel nation to an end. So this Antiochus Epiphanes came and destroyed the nation of Israel. It's all in the 1st Maccabees. But my point is this: I wanted to show you that in chapter 11 of Daniel, they when they read, just like in Daniel 9:25, they tell you that Jesus. They want you to think that chapter 11 of Daniel is in the future, that this man going to come at the end and rebuild the temple, he's going to stand in the temple and cause the abomination to make it desolate. When the abomination of desolate, abomination of desolation already happened. You see it already happened. Antiochus caused it. So in the book of Daniel chapter 11, it keeps talking about the king of the south and the king of the north. That's Bartholomew, one of Alexander's generals, and Seleucid from the north. That's not no futuristic. All this stuff that already. When he told us that Daniel, it was futuristic, but it came to pass. And they want you to think that it's way off in the future, right? So, but it's not. So I want to show you that. So I was showing you how this king of the south is Bartholomew. He ruled in Egypt, and then Seleucid Empire was in the north. So let me show you that right quick. I want to read out of Daniel chapter 8. And then we're going to play this little short film. Okay, I'm in Daniel, right? And it says right here that, let me get it. Okay, I'm gonna start reading. This the vision that Daniel had before Gabriel came and gave him the understanding of it. So I'm gonna read the vision. It's in chapter 8, starting at verse 1. In the third year, in the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, unto me, Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was in Shushan, so he in captivity, in the palace, which is in the province of Edom, and I saw in a vision, and I was by the river Ulai. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one of them was higher than the other, and the higher one came up last. That's the Persians. Persians came up last. Medes came first. Cyrus a Mede. So it says, and I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out his hand. But he did according to his will and became great. And as I was considering, behold, a he-goat, this is the third beast, came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and it touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And that's Alexandria. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him with the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with clover against him, and he smote the ram and brake his 2 horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stomped upon him, and there was none that could deliver out his hand. It says, therefore, the he-goat became very great, and when he had became strong, the great horn was broken, and before it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds. That's the 4 generals. So this is my point right here, verse 9. And out of them, out of these four kings, we saw all these wars going on. And verse 9 says, out of these 4 generals came a little horn, this Antiochus, right? And he came out of the Seleucid Empire, which was in the north. That's what Daniel chapter 11 is talking about. So it says, which was exceedingly great toward the north and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. See that? So that's this thing, and it waxed great even to the hosts of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts of the stars to the ground and stomped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and peace and the place of his sanctuary was cast down, and a host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and he cast it down, the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Then I heard one of the saints say to another saint, and unto the certain saint which spake, how long shall it be to the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and transgression of the desolation, and to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot, right? So we see right here, this Antiochus, and we over last night and tonight we see how he's the one that came. All this already happened. Everything that we see in Daniel has already happened. It ain't got nothing prophesied off in the future. Like I said, there's 4 beasts coming on the earth. Daniel was in the first beast, and he had a vision of the second and the third beast. And Gabriel told him, because they're gonna go back to the land of Israel, and they're gonna pick up where they left off at. That's gonna bring the abomination and make it desert by a king at the end of the third beast. And just like he said, and we went over last night, Antiochus came and he destroyed. He did everything Daniel had was shown, dreamed about, and everything that was revealed to Daniel by Gabriel. So with that being played, I want to show you. I want to play the part of one of the generals was the Seleucid Empire. That's where Antiochus came out of. So I'm gonna give you a little short history on that. Okay, this little horn that came up out of the four horns. Okay, let me get it.
For more than 2 centuries, the Persian Empire was the most powerful military and political entity on Earth. Alexander of Macedon conquered this massive empire in a few years, with a relatively small army. This event shook the ancient world. Alexander is most commonly known as Alexander the Great for this great accomplishment. However, he did not enjoy it for a great deal of time. Upon returning to Babylon and relaxing for about 5 minutes, he got sick and died in 323 BC. His top generals, officials, and relatives, all former friends, allies, and battle brothers, turned on each other. The chaotic struggle for the unbelievable amount of wealth and power obtained by the Macedonians unleashed decades of war between the successors of Alexander, known as the Wars of the Diadochi. Of Alexander's many illustrious generals, officers, and retainers who fought to control his empire, Seleucus was an unlikely prospect to emerge victorious from the fray. During the conquests of Alexander, Seleucus had worked his way up the ranks from a minor officer to an elite infantry unit commander. He had no territory and a little over 2,000 men personally loyal to himself, which was relatively insignificant compared to an empire populated by millions, where hundreds of thousands were being marshaled throughout by the top contenders to succeed Alexander. So Seleucus, a beefy hulk of a man who played up the association between himself and a bull, was compelled to play a supporting role for quite some time. War was initially instigated when the corpse of Alexander was stolen en route for burial in Macedon by Ptolemy, Alexander's general, who had been appointed governor of Egypt. Seleucus and his men first backed Perdiccas, who was initially the most powerful. However, after leading a poorly planned invasion of Egypt, Perdiccas was assassinated by his own men. Seleucus was likely involved. In the Second War of the Diadochi, which soon followed after peace interrupted for a short time, Seleucus backed his old friend Antigonus the One-Eyed, who replaced Perdiccas as the leading power. Antigonus appointed Seleucus satrap of Babylon. There, Seleucus ingratiated himself with the local population, with whom he was quite popular. He generously funded temples and local institutions. Additionally, a year before Alexander's death, around 100 of his top officers were compelled to marry Persian wives, in an effort to amalgamate Persian and Greek culture, power, and people. Alexander's vision was abandoned not long after his corpse was cold. Seleucus was the only top officer of note who remained married to his Persian bride. while the rest discarded theirs. Some have said this was out of love, but it may also have been a calculated strategic decision. Having the knowledge and credibility of a native noble family on one side was a valuable asset, which was overlooked by Seleucus's peers and superiors. He even later claimed that his wife was the daughter of Darius, the last Persian Shah, which made their son the legitimate heir and rightful ruler of the Persian Empire. Because of Seleucus's growing popularity, Antigonus likely viewed him as a potential rival. After Antigonus executed a mutual friend who was accused of plotting a rebellion, Seleucus feared Antigonus was planning to execute him next, so he fled to Egypt. There, Ptolemy provided him protection and later an army. Seleucus used the army to conquer Babylon, while Ptolemy and Antigonus were sparring in the Levant. In Babylonia, Seleucus finally established independent rule in 312 BC. That lasted for about a year. While Seleucus was expanding his territory in the east, many of the local Iranians switched sides and rallied to his cause. Meanwhile, he lost Babylon, and the city was sacked. Following a 2-year war with Antigonus, Seleucus took Babylon and made peace. After Alexander's death, his brother and son inherited his titles, Lord of Asia, Shah of Persia, along with many other regal titles. But in reality, those with armies at their command wielded true authority and controlled the empire's finances. But his son were murdered after all heirs had been hunted down and killed. His generals officially claimed themselves kings, which they already kind of were. Seleucus did so in 305 BC. Seleucus's authority was firmly established over the eastern provinces during a 4-year period in the Upper Empire. This brought the Seleucids into contact with another rapidly expanding empire, the Mauryan Empire of Chandragupta. Not much is known about the ensuing war between these two empires, other than that the Macedonians were expelled from the Indian subcontinent. A peace treaty was then successfully negotiated, which recognized Mauryan territorial gains, and an alliance formed, sealed with a diplomatic marriage between Seleucus's daughter and the Indian emperor. In exchange, Chandragupta gave Seleucus a formidable force of 500 trained war elephants. 2 years later, these elephants were used to great effect to decisively defeat Antigonus at the Battle of Ipsus, where Old One Eye lost his life. After the battle, the Seleucid Empire enjoyed more than a decade of relative peace, during which time Seleucus was able to indulge in his real passion, city building. His greatest project had already begun a few years before, Seleucia, a brand new capital city. It was built near Babylon, and no expense was spared trying to outshine the grand old city. Seleucia's population did not grow fast enough to fill the massive metropolis being built, so much of Babylon's population was relocated to the nearby city to realize Seleucus's vision of a grand metropolitan capital city bearing his name. In addition to this, dozens of cities were built in which Greek immigrants were encouraged to settle in. Many of these cities, Seleucus named after himself, his father, or his wife who passed away. After Ipsus, Seleucus made an alliance with Demetrius, the son of Antigonus the One-Eyed. To seal the alliance, he married Demetrius's daughter, who was 40 years younger than him. While Demetrius was establishing himself as king in Macedon, one of history's more weird events took place. Seleucus's son Antiochus fell madly in love with his stepmom, to an unhealthy level. His father felt sorry for the young lad, and worried that he might die of sadness, so he let him marry his stepmom, who the old king had just had a child with. This was scandalous, even by the standards of the time. However, this may have all been part of a plan to insult Demetrius, who Seleucus hated. After ditching the daughter, the two kings promptly went to war. Demetrius was militarily successful in the beginning, but his unpaid soldiers became disgruntled as soon as they saw Seleucus, who had gained a reputation for being wealthy and generous with his soldiers. Demetrius's army immediately surrendered before the battle. Demetrius was captured and later died in captivity. In 282 BC, the pharaoh Ptolemy died in Egypt, leaving Seleucus and Lysimachus as the last two surviving successors of Alexander. So naturally, they went to war with each other for one last old man fight. Seleucus won, and Lysimachus died in battle. With little to no resistance standing in his way, Seleucus traveled towards Macedon and planned to live out his final days in his homeland, which he had not seen for over half a century. Then he was assassinated. by a son of Ptolemy who he had given refuge. The death of Seleucus marked the end of the Wars of the Diadochi. He had been the last contemporary of Alexander to be left standing with the largest piece of his empire. His son Antiochus reigned for 2 decades, which was arguably the most peaceful and prosperous period in the empire's history, as large-scale commerce flowed between the Mauryan Empire in India and the Seleucid Empire. Early in Antiochus's reign, a major Gallic invasion into Asia Minor was crushed, in large part thanks to his Indian elephants, which the Gauls had never seen before. For this victory, he was given the title Savior. His reign also saw the first of many largely inconclusive wars fought against the Ptolemies of Egypt. His son, Antiochus II, also waged war against the Ptolemies. While he was distracted there, the eastern half of the empire, which carried these, broke off, with their governors solidifying their independence by the end of his reign. Seleucus II followed with a long series of disasters. He was competent, determined, and very unlucky. From the onset of his reign, he faced numerous rebellions, invasions, and civil wars. 2 of his brothers attempted to become independent rulers, with some success before they were killed. After many years of war, he was able to hold the empire together in the west, while launching failed campaigns in the east. He also built a large fleet that sank. Then, unexpectedly, he fell off a horse and died. His son, Seleucus III, was even more unfortunate, and was assassinated before he really got to do anything. The empire in turmoil then passed to another son, Antiochus III, who waged successful campaigns in every direction, and for a short time, he made the Seleucid Empire great again. Near the end of his reign, the Roman Republic decisively defeated Antiochus the Great in the west. Fun fact, Hannibal Barca, famous for nearly defeating Rome during the Punic Wars, was one of Antiochus the Great's military advisors and generals during his failed war with Rome. Like the Carthaginians, they were forced to pay massive war reparations, 450 tons of silver in their case. The eastern provinces took the opportunity to break off. Antiochus moved to retake the eastern territory during a temple. He died with
We can't wait forever. Oh, you're not surprised, please.
Made with Mexican spices, made for nacho cheese.
died without fully repaying the war reparations to Rome. This compelled his successors to raise taxes throughout the empire, and confiscate temple treasuries, including the Hebrew temple in Jerusalem. Relations with Judea deteriorated during Antiochus IV. The long-held Seleucid policy of respecting the worship of Greek gods mandatory. Antiochus, the first successful Seleucid invasion of Egypt. There he placed a puppet on the throne. Then the Romans told him to leave Egypt alone. So he did. Some trying to sell.
So, like I said, you see right there what I had just read in chapter 8. He said that a little horn was going to come. A little horn was going to come out of that. A little horn was going to come out of those 4 kingdoms. That was when the Roman Empire, when the Greek Empire was set up. That was Antiochus at the end of it, and we see from the history that he ended up king of the north, went to fight with Ptolemy, the king of the south, and they and he prevailed over him. And after he did that, 3.5 years, he made a treaty with the Israelites. And then after 3.5 years, on his way back from Egypt, he came up against Israel and destroyed it and brought it to an end in 143 BC. So let me read that in chapter 11. Like I said, in the church, in the Catholic Church, and in the Baptist Church, and everywhere else, they want you to think that chapter 11 is in the future. It ain't happened yet. They waiting on the Antichrist. But I'm gonna show you right here, he already came. So chapter 11 of Daniel, right? It says, chapter 11 of Daniel says, it says, and now, verse 1, and now, now I will show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, the second beast, and the fourth, which is Darius, shall be far richer than them all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up against the realm of the Grecia. That's the third beast. Okay. And the mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. That's Alexandria. And when he shall stand up, we in Daniel chapter 11. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and it shall be divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, north, south, east, and west, and not to his prosperity, nor according to his dominion, which he shall rule, for his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside thee. And here we go. King of the south. See that? The king of the south shall be strong. That's Ptolemy, one of his princes. And he shall be strong above him and have dominion. And his dominion shall be a great dominion. And in the end of years, at the end of years, end of the Greek kingdom, they shall join themselves together, for the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north. They go to the Ptolemy and the Seleucid Empire, right? To make an agreement, but she shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand nor his arm, but she shall be given up, and they shall be brought to her, and he that begot, and they that brought her, and he that begot her, and he that strengthened her in these times. But out of the branch of her root shall one stand up in his state, which shall come with an army, and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north, and he shall deal against them, and shall prevail, and shall also carry captive into Egypt their gods with their princes and with their precious vessels of silver and of gold, and he shall continue more years than the king of the north. So the king of the south shall come into his kingdom and shall return into his own land. So what I'm reading is what I've been showing you, the wars of the successors. This ain't got anything to do with no future. It already happened. These are wars of the successors. So I'm gonna pick it up, and when the Antichrist comes in verse 39, it says, Daniel 11 and 39, thus shall he do, go back up to 36, and the king shall be, shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself, to Antiochus, magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that that is determined shall be done. So let's look at that. Go back to Daniel chapter 8. This is what Gabriel told Daniel, right? He says in verse Daniel 8 and 18, now, as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground, but he touched me and set me upright. And he said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of indignation. See that? Last end of indignation, or the time appointed, the end shall be. The end of Israel as a nation. And then you go back to chapter 11, Daniel 11 and verse 36. And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and he shall prosper till the indignation that's in Daniel chapter 8, be accomplished. For the time appointed shall be. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor desire women, nor regard of any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. They want you to think this is the Antichrist. was this Antiochus, right? The 38. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most stronghold with a strange God, this Serapis, with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. And at the time of the end, the time for Israel to come to an end, not the end of the world. At the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with the chariots and with horsemen and with many ships. And he shall enter into the country, and he shall overflow and pass over. He shall enter in also into the glorious land, that's Israel. And many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand. Edom, see that? Because Edom stole the land right here. Edom, Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. He shall stretch forth his hands also upon the countries and the land of Egypt. King of the south shall not escape, but he shall have power over the treasures of gold and over silver and over precious things of Egypt. And the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his step. But tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with fury to destroy and to make away many. And he shall plant his tabernacle of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain, that's in Israel. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. So I'm gonna read this right here, and then I'll open it up for some questions so we'll close out. But he says in 43, but he shall have power over the treasures of gold. This is Daniel chapter 11, verse 43. He shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver and over the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his step. Then it says, 44, but tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy and utterly to make a way in. So let's look at that. We read this last night, but I'm gonna read it again to show you beyond a shadow of a doubt this Antiochus. There ain't nobody coming in the future. So, I mean, Second Maccabees. Okay. Give me a minute. Okay. One minute. Okay. Yeah, here you go right here. So it says in Daniel chapter 11, verses 42 and 43 that he tidings out of the north shall trouble him, then he left in fury. Okay, so I'm in Second Maccabees chapter 8, starting at verse 9. Now about that time it happened that Antiochus returned in disorder from the region of Persia, for he had entered into the city called Persepolis and tried to rob the temple and get control of the city. At this point, the people naturally had swift recourse to arms, and they had routed, and they were routed, and the result was that Antiochus was put to flight by the people of the country, and he left in disgrace. And while he was in Ibanica, news came to him of what had happened to Nicholas, whatever his name, and the forces of Timus, and excited with anger, he thought that he would fasten upon the Jews the injury done to him by those who had put him to flight. So he ordered his charioteers to drive without stopping until he finished the journey, although the judgment of heaven accompanied him. For in his arrogance he said, I will make Jerusalem the common graveyard of the Jews when I get there. But the all-seeing Lord the God of heaven struck him down with an incurable but unseen blow, for he had hardly uttered the words when he was seized with an incurable pain in his bowels and sharp eternal pain. So we see right here in Daniel chapter 8, verse 25, he was broken without hand. In Daniel chapter 11, it said that he had tidings out of the east, and he went to go in fury, but he was cut off. And we see right here it came to pass right here. It's Antiochus. It ain't no Antichrist coming in the future. It's all this is Antiochus. Antioch Epiphanes the fourth. So it had nothing to do with no New Testament. They concocted that and put it over there to extend the lie that they did with JC when they concocted it. All this stuff already been transpired. Like I said in closing last night, what we witnessing now, all the chaos and all these prophecies that's being fulfilled all over the place is because we're at the end of our captivity. Jacob's trouble started when they was kicked out of the land of Israel back in 143 BC. We're at the end of Jacob's trouble. I mean, what can get what can be more horrific than what's already happened to us, especially the transatlantic slave trade. So we're gonna have two Jacob troubles? Don't make any sense. Okay. Anybody got any comments? Okay, everybody good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So like I said before, I'm trying to spread a net, looking at the earth, where we at and what's going on. So I'm trying to put it out there in the airways where they can come across it on Clubhouse, or they can come across it through Prophets of Awakening. Get this information. Okay. So with that being said, I want to say shalom to everybody, and I'll see everybody on Clubhouse tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. So I want to say shalom, and another shalom.